Deepika again, signing in from Skillablers desk. We have a very interesting session today, again, in session third of the day, audio-visual engineering. We have with us our moderator, Mr. Mridul Sharma, Managing Director, 3CDN, an entrepreneur in the space of working technology, consultancy, and an engineer by education. With over 15 years of domain experience, he has had and led 3CDN with a dedicated team of designers, engineers, and consultants to address the business needs of consumers and youth by providing them with comprehensive solutions to enhance their user experience in workplace by using right equipment, right technology at the right time and at the right place. He is committed to create better, sustainable, and collaborative workspaces. 3CDN has also delivered over 10 million square feet of smart spaces by drawing a differentiation among the workspace limitations and technologies through 3Cs, which are curiosity, creativity, and confidence. I also have with me the panelists, which I would be introducing briefly. I have with me from industry professionals, Mr. Christopher Lim. Welcome, Christopher. He's the general manager to ESCO.
Hi, Deepika.
Hi. Institution professional, I have with me Mr. Jonathan Sala, Senior Director of Development at FIXA.
Welcome, good afternoon. Jonathan. How are you? Good afternoon. Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure, likewise, to have you with us, the panelists for our youth. Moving on to the next, we have youth professional, Mr. Prakash Appuswamy, Business Development Manager at Extron. Welcome, Prakash.
Thanks for having me over here, Deepika, and hope all good at your side.
It's a pleasure and a privilege and an honor to have all of you all here. Thank you very much. I have with me the youth student, Alex Jonathan, and welcome, Jonathan. Alex. Okay, I hand it over to the moderator, Mr. Mridul Sharma, Managing Director, 3CDN. Welcome, Mridul.
Thank you, Deepika, Skillablers, and Team EDC for this lovely initiative. We're happy to be here today.
Pleasure.
Quickly talking about the industry that is part of today's agenda, the Pro AV market in India that we're going to be covering today. So the Pro audiovisual market in India has grown from $2.6 billion in 2012 to $5.4 billion in 2016, and it is expected to reach $8.4 billion by 2022. AV communication technology is part of government's program like digitalization and smart cities. AV communication technology will not only help to boost the effort of making modern cities and develop infrastructure, but also accelerate advancement of banking, retail, education, tourism, hospitality, more certified professionals in the market, as there is a huge gap. There is scope to represent the global brands, start system integration or design projects. With the AV IT convergence, there are more career opportunities than ever before. We have two Jonathans with us here today. One is Alex, who is from MIT, Mysore, and we will refer to him as Alex moving forward. And of course, we have Mr. Jonathan Speller from AVIXA. So AVIXA, earlier known as Infocom International, is the global not-for-profit trade association established back in 1939 in US, representing the professional AV and ICT worldwide. Members in India include manufacturers, system integrators, dealers and distributors, design consultants, programmers, rental and staging companies, and as well as the end users. AVIXA is a hub for professional collaboration, standards, certifications, trainings, market intelligence, and thought leadership. Moving forward, and to get our panel engaged, we have a set of questions which we are going to throw to the panel and the group here. If I can start with the first one. Outlook of AV industry and potential opportunities it serves for students coming fresh out of colleges. I want Jonathan from AVIXA to take the lead here. Jonathan.
Thanks, Mridul. Look, I think your introduction actually said it. You know, the growth of the AV industry is incredibly exciting. We're going to be an $8 billion industry in a few years' time. At the end of 2019, the IT industry itself grew at about 3%. AV was around about 8%. It's one of the fastest growing markets for AV globally. at a very uncertain time, and I don't really want to speak too much of that today because there's enough of that, but at a very, very uncertain time, I think it's not unreasonable to say that, AV technology and what the professional audio visual industry does will be a very, very important part of the global economy moving forward. We see AV in all parts of the economy and in impacting all walks of life. And as the economies start to grow again, AV will be a very, very big and exciting part of that. And I think that's something that students looking at the potential of AV should be very encouraged about, is that we are a growing industry and we will continue to grow.
Lovely. Thanks, Jonathan. We have the opportunities that kids coming out of college have when they join AV industry.
Mridul, we just lost you for a few seconds. Could you repeat, please?
We have Chris also with us from ESCO. So ESCO, while they are a dominant force in APAC, they also have significant operations here in India. So Chris, if you want to take up opportunities our AV industry has for the kids coming out of colleges.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what Jonathan said, there are tremendous opportunities for students who are interested in the audiovisual industry. I think the industry itself is going through significant changes as well. So it's increasingly being amalgamated with the unified communication industry as well. And you can argue, does AV lead the UC industry or does UC lead the AV industry? One thing for sure is that the way that we work in the professional world is going to change forever, right? In the past, people were very reluctant to embrace these kinds of specialized technology because, it was so hard to operate a video conferencing system in a room. They didn't know what numbers to dial. But it was a funny thing, right? Because they are used to having this kind of technology in their daily lives, right? WhatsApp and Facebook. And this whole crisis has actually pushed people to get familiar with these technologies to be used on an enterprise level in their, not only in their personal lives, but also in their working lives. And it's made the AV industry a little bit more mainstream. It's gained a little bit of profile. And, moving forward, it will be hard to imagine a world where the workforce does not have a very good understanding, or at least basic understanding of how to work collaboratively, from separate locations. So I think it's a bad time, of course, with the crisis, but I think the evolution of the AV industry provide a lot of opportunities for the students coming to the workforce.
Lovely. So from being a good to have kind of a package, we have become mainstream and part of the workflow. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely.
We also have representation from a manufacturer, that is Extron. Prakash, you want to share some of your thoughts around this?
Yeah, Mridul, thanks. So as you have just mentioned that we are not just A and V, a lot more there is in the industry to deal with. It is not audio and video always now. And we have started dealing with augmented reality, virtual reality, gaming. And then you have got other industries like building management systems. And the industries like this give a lot of exposure to other, the new fresh graduates, not only graduates and new job opportunities. So apart from this, when you take it as an electronics, and electronics is one of the evolving industry, right? So the AV was AV of yesterday is not the same as today, and the analog days are gone. Now we are migrating towards digital. So now every component of electronics have been moved to digital, and we are converging more towards IT. And our handshake is going to be more with IoTs and more with IT infrastructures and more related towards UC. So now the industry is going to be bigger and bigger. So when the industry goes bigger, obviously there has to be a lot of the base. The base includes the resources. So in that case, I look forward a huge opportunity for the new graduates. So let's see, going forward, we'll discuss about the other parameters. Thanks.
Thanks, Prakash. So we are part of an industry which is moving from infancy to maturity. And that's the trajectory Prakash was talking about. And every industry which grows at the pace that it is growing right now for AV. My next question happens to be around the thoughts around how do we bridge the gap between industry, individuals, and institutions. So has the AV industry established connection with institutes or universities globally? And are similar models available and possible for India? Probably we can have Chris from ESCO talk about it first. Chris?
Yeah, sure. So if you're talking specifically about education, I mean, we've had e-learning platforms available online for quite a while now, but the way that it's evolved into a more pervasive, everyday way kind of life thing, like you have all the platforms which institutions use nowadays, be it Zoom, be it Teams, be it whatever platform that they are, right? It's become normal, right? And it's going to stay normal, right? It's not going to be a case where one day the pandemic is over and everyone's going to shunt back to the classrooms and, no, they've made the technology work. And I think having the knowledge of how to use this platform is one thing, right? But also the technology available in the classroom itself, right? It's also gained a little bit more profile, right? Teachers and students are becoming more familiarized with AV technology. They know how to use it in a proper setting, which in the past was not always a given, right? So, I mean, education is one thing, but you see in multiple other industries, in medical, telemedicine, video consultations, all of these things, right? In the past, it was a separate thing. It was disparate, but now it's all come together, right? And that's the thing, right? The AV industry is so broad. So it depends on which sector you're looking at. But I think relevant to what's happening in the world today, if we look at the UC space, I think this is what we should be focusing on. Yep.
Lovely. Thanks, Chris. And Jonathan,
Yeah, thanks, Mridul. You were breaking up a little bit there, so I'm assuming I'm just going to follow on from Chris. What we've seen locally in India and also globally, that we have members who are working with institutions, and in my mind right now, I'm thinking of one particular member in Western India who has partnered with an institution to produce a 2-year internship program that includes the students continuing to study full time, and then when they're on school holidays, they go and work with the organisation. And he's looked at engineering, he's looked at sales, and he's looked at management as a part of that program, and that's been very helpful to bridge the gap. So following on from Chris's point, though, part of what opens those students' eyes to that is the fact that they're using the technology at school, particularly now because they're actually using the technology to learn from home. And that has been a very difficult thing. Look, I could take the whole hour just talking about all the different kinds of programs that there are out there, and I obviously won't do that. But there is a lot of work being done by the industry, both in India and globally, to help bridge those gaps, to help students understand, about the positiveness of the future within AV. And programs like this are just another way of doing that as well, right? So, yeah. Thanks, Mridul.
Thanks, Jonathan. Be considered as a career option. We have Alex coming from MIT, Mysore. So what would be your thoughts on this front, Alex?
Yeah, sir. To me, the industry more depends on how the application of our education is based, like what we learn in college, what our educational institutions teach us. How do we apply that to our daily life things, like you said audio-visual system integration things, right?
Right.
So what makes the student interested is your question. And for that, a common consensus answer would be like mm, uh, just considering the gaming industry, which is common to all students, all teenagers, and everybody. Uh, the handshake which you mentioned with the video and audio industry, which would be the communication of the games to the people. Uh, the people who are using the industry options like televisions, game controllers, everything, what the industries are doing and how they are collaborating with the companies, gaming industries, the game producers, and how all those things are integrated into just one equipment which can be brought by the consumer, and that could be used for the students. So that's my perspective from the gaming industry.
Mhm.
And as a student, I would like to know what all are the options that are available, like in your Avixa company, sir. I noticed that there are several certification courses like CTS, and there are other platforms like Dante Audio and all of those certification courses. So,
Right.
what are the industrial experts expecting from us? What kind of certifications are expected to be completed by us, and what technical aspects are we to be mm, certified and capable of using?
Right.
So
So
that would be
perfect. Perfect. Thanks, Alex. So the first part of your response was around making industry more relatable, where the skills and the learnings that you're extracting from your universities, what will be the practical application of them moving forward. So that was the first part of it. The second part was to make it more relatable. You used a very nice analogy of gaming, and thanks to the current pandemic, UC and conferencing that Chris spoke about has become very relatable, not just for students or for kids coming out of colleges, but for everybody. Is a fantastic and probably the perfect platform for students to kind of get involved with, to seek certifications, which kind of prime you well to be part of our industry. We have Jonathan on the call. He is the best guy to talk about what does this platform offer to students coming out of colleges. Jonathan, you want to take that up first?
Yeah, sure. I think we're planning to talk about this in a little bit as well, but effectively, our CTS certifications are they're industry accreditations. So they're developed by the industry for the industry. And we at Avixa have a student membership that would enable students such as yourself to get access to all the educational courses online to prepare you to sit the CTS exam. Although we recommend doing that just sort of probably once you're in the industry. Do the education prior to joining the industry, and you get certificates for doing that training, and then take the certification exam as you're sort of coming in. But it's very, very accessible. You study at your own pace, so you can fit it in with other studies while you're still at school. And it's only about 750 to 800 rupees for a year for a student membership that gets you access to all that education. So you can find more details at that on our website at avixa.org. But it is absolutely known all over the world in the world of AV, what the CTS certification stands for. And, you know, we have many people right across the globe who as a part of their application for work, have their CTS certification. And I think I'd defer to maybe Prakash or Christopher about product certifications and what that means to their organizations. Because we don't offer product certifications, we offer what we call industry certifications. So
I think I'm going to let Prakash go first. I think Extron have a very, very good education system in place for their products. So a lot of people that come to the industry, they start with Extron and they learn about basic signal flow and basic signal distribution. So Prakash, please take the lead on this one.
Yeah, thanks, Christopher and Jonathan. And See, so as you have mentioned, Avixa has been leading this industry's standards and study the benchmarks and guiding the industry to the procedures and formalities. Okay, coming to the OEM side, we have also contributed on terms of trainings alongside Avixa, and Avixa leading at the front. And we do a lot of industry trainings, less of courses for the freshers and graduates. It's more of the industry certifications. How Jonathan has mentioned, so I'm one of the CTSs, and with the CTS, it gives a lot of confidence on driving any project. Now, when I talk about project, now first of all, you have to understand the system that this industry comprises of a lot of fraternities. Something like you have manufacturers like Extron, then you have distributors, dealers, then you have system integrators and experts like consultants who guide in setting the solution and designs, and then integrators and resellers and programmers. So this is a community, and you have the requirements of skill set is different from one fraternity to other fraternity, and you can't say that, sir, I have an experience at this particular community. Can I join over there? As long as your skill set is matching, you can do. And apart from that, if you ask me honestly, this industry just requires a fresh mind, adaptability, and an interactivity skill, and an open mind to learn new things, because this technology has been evolving like anything. How many of us know that the electronic industry has been finding a newer component to replace silicon, because there is something called gallium nitride, which has been tested to replace silicons, because the silicon's demand has been increasing, electronic equipments are increasing, and soon we can expect gallium nitride being a newer component to manufacture your transistors and your other electronic components in power supplies, LEDs, and you have other electronic gadgets. So what I try to say is, end of the day, there is nothing sort of a courses or a class can certify you to join this industry. It's all about your interest and the openness to learn. That's it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what Rakesh has said. As he mentioned, the industry welcomes anyone with a passion. I think a lot of people, including myself, ended up in the audiovisual industry by accident, I'd say. A lot of people come through some audio engineering courses, and some people start off as IT professionals, and they somehow get dragged into the AV industry, and it tends to keep hold of you. So I wouldn't, in many parts of the world, right, there's no audiovisual course. It's like, you don't tell your mom, I want to be in audiovisual. It's not like being a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, right? But having said all of this, all the CTS certifications which Avixa have, right, they're not exactly a precursor to get into the industry. You get into the industry, and then you take all these accredited courses, to bolster your knowledge and your professionalism. So I think the industry, in a way, has always needed a greater sense of identity. I think we are getting that now. We are getting that now due to what's happening in the world. But yeah, so I think as a student, right, you have to try to look at AV as something by itself, and you decide, if this is something that you want to follow, right? And it doesn't matter what you studied in a lot of ways, right? It's whether you have a passion for it. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. So I mean, as was spoken about earlier, AV is an amalgamation of different disciplines and different skills that come together to kind of achieve the goals that are set out by clients. When we started off in this industry, we didn't have the platforms that we're talking about. So what Avixa does with their membership programs and the online courses is to prime you towards what you're going to expect when you join the industry. We always use this theory that if you have your fundamentals in place, you will be able to overcome most of the challenges that are going to come forward. Imagine what happened to us. We kind of learned most of the skills on AV incidentally while we were at site, while we were talking to our customers, and we figured it out. With right fundamentals, it becomes much more easier. So thank you panel members for side insights around that. Moving on and to the next question, what should the AV industry do to improve awareness and visibility to institutes and universities? I think we have spoken a bit about it already. At the risk of repeating, probably we can start with Jonathan again from Avixa.
Well, I think it differs for every institution. At a high level, organisations like Avixa are providing tools to our members to help communicate the opportunities to students. Through our offices in Bangalore and Delhi, we have also presented to thousands of students in India, and you know, again at events like today, where I know we as a panel are talking to many students right across the country. In Mumbai, we have had hundreds of students who have been lucky enough to attend our Infocom industry trade show that happens every year in Mumbai, where they get to see more of the types of things the AV industry does. But it's forums like these that get the message out, participating in careers fairs. So where there's an AV company in a local school is having a careers fair, being involved and participating in that. But you know, I want to take Christopher's point. I'm a fitter and machinist by trade. When I left school, AV wasn't even in my vocabulary. And now I've been in AV for around about 25 years. Been a long time since I've picked up a spanner in anger. So, you know, we do see a lot of people come in from IT. One of the things that, and now I'm going to speak directly to you students who are out there listening to this. You may have gone to school with a particular career path in mind. That may work out, that may not work out. If you're studying engineering, if you're studying IT, if you're studying management or business, there is a home for you here in AV as well, because we use all of those disciplines. And what we do as an industry is so exciting. The results of what we do is just incredible. Let's see, I'm talking to students from India. I can't see you raise your hands, but I'm betting that there's at least one or two of you out there who are excited about cricket. So when you're watching the IPL and you see the replay up on the big screen of is he out, is he not, all of that anticipation, all of that emotion is delivered through AV. And cricket is one very important example in India, but it is just one example. You know, right across the country, there is demonstration after demonstration after demonstration of how AV helps to enrich people's lives and to help improve communications. And there's something exciting and something incredibly easy to be passionate about with that. If you've got passion, we can develop the skills together. We can help improve the knowledge together. But passion is something that it just seems to be a common thread for everyone who's in AV, because nobody left school wanting to be a great AV engineer. We all started doing something else. So shortcut the journey, face the inevitable, join AV today. You'll save years of wasting time. Thanks, Myrtle.
Lovely, lovely. Chris, you want to add to this?
Well, I think Jonathan, pretty much summed it up, right? I think maybe just another piece of advice is, since the AV industry is very broad, you know, it encompasses live events, post-production, you know, studio production, and AV for commercial spaces. I think you might want to look at, you know, different segments of the AV industry and determine where your interest lies. As a start, that would be great. So obviously, the more marketable segments of AV are, you know, the concert, live productions, live sound, and things like that. It's something which, you know, the younger generation can more easily identify themselves with. But let's not ignore, you know, some of the complicated, well, so-called more boring stuff which goes on, which is equally important, you know, in the corporate commercial worlds today, in the way that we communicate with one another, the way we use technology to enhance the collaboration that goes on between 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people. right? So yeah, so just try to break it down a little bit, right, and see where your interest takes you.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And Prakash, how about you?
Yeah, so I feel for this, I feel there has to be more come from the institution side. Though we are, as an industry professional, we are okay for guest lectures, we are okay for the interns or the industrial visits, we are okay for all these things. But it's all up to the openness to the universities and institutes as well, and how seriously they take this into their ecosystem. For example, if you go to an university, how their university is equipped with this type of technologies. Well, first, they have to start with that. So when the industry is talking about the digital and ARs and VRs, we would recommend the institutes and universities to have a digital classroom in their classes. Let the students see the experience first in their classrooms. Let them listen through the speakers. Let them see through the digital whiteboard. The days of the blackboard has gone now. The institutions have slightly moved forward to the projectors, and now it has gone even beyond that. There are some higher education universities in India have adapted such a modern classrooms, wherein the audio enhancement is better and the video clarity is better. Instead of talking about technology, you forget about the back end of it, but the purpose of having a classroom is to transform the teacher's content to the student, how effectively it's been transformed. So I feel first there has to be some adaptive, so there has to be the technology to be adapted by the universities in their classrooms, and they let the students listen to that, see that, and they let them understand, okay, this is audio, this is video, and it all starts from there. And finally, even Indian government has, with the recent reformation of education system, there are some optional studies during their classes. There are some electives in their course, in their degrees and semesters, and they can choose one of these audio and video as a optional paper, and they have enough of resources in the internet. Now, even Avixa has said that they have enough of materials available over there. As a manufacturer, we contribute that, and even our website has got some content related to the basics of the systems, so they can always go through it. Anyway, what I try to say is we are open to it, and it's all up to the other side, the universities and education side, to reach the halfway.
Right, and if I can stay with you, Prakash, when you have freshers coming and joining you straight out of colleges, right? You obviously will notice and observe some gaps in terms of their skills, in terms of their background. How can kids coming out of schools and colleges bridge that gap? What are the few things they should be doing before they come and join perhaps OEMs like you?
See, I can't give much of a checklist for them to get certified. But as I mentioned earlier, all it requires is the openness. All it requires is the passion and interest towards the industry. Apart from their gamings and apart from their headphones through the mobile, they should first of all get to know what is audio, what is video beyond that. We all know, like as Alex mentioned, he was interested in gaming and he wanted to know something beyond that. So what is the extra step that he has taken to know more about it? So what are the steps that he has taken? So that's all up to them. We are there to help them. We have classes and courses for that.
And as Extron, does Extron has a policy around hiring freshers? Do you look for certain disciplines only to hire students from? They have to be from electronics, instrumentation, IT background. What is the basic entry barrier for that?
So though the preferred discipline would be towards electronics, but you can understand that this industry has seen and has got a lot of pioneers coming from different stream. Not all of them are from electronics who have succeeded in this industry. So particular about Extron, obviously they prefer, and the team may prefer electronic graduates, but with a handful of requirements with us, we have other partners who generally hire out freshers. When the system comes back normal and when the economy raises back, maybe our partners who have got plenty of resources for their projects, we may need them. We can help patching with them.
Lovely. So that was the perspective from a manufacturer's point of view. Now let's take a view from an integrator. That's ESCO for us today. Chris, what kind of gaps do you see when they come out of institutes and colleges? And what are the ways and remedies for that?
Well, just want to tell you guys that talking about what we studied at school. So I actually studied journalism, so I'm a trained journalist. So look where life takes you, right? So look, I think there has to be a significant collaboration between the industries and the educational institutes. I think that's really one of the very first few steps. So in Singapore, there are courses related to audiovisual, but the audiovisual industry predates courses like this by 20, 30, 40 years, right? So you can imagine we had such a huge gap for so many years before people started realizing we kind of need people of this skill set. And part of being an integrator is we almost never expect, right, any fresh grad to have the kind of experience we require, right? But we build and we mold them and we guide them, where to go to get all these various certifications and things like that. But I think at a industry level, there has to be a lot of collaboration between integrators, manufacturers, and even associations like VIXA and the educational institutes to say that, hey, this is a viable career path, right? There is demand for people of these, for people with these kinds of skills, right? Otherwise, we always will remain as an in-between industry, which people kind of know about us, but don't have a very clear idea of what we do, right? So when I was in my younger days, I started out in a bit of a concert production. So what we did was, we as a company liaise with the technical institutes to show them that, hey, we need people that have some knowledge in lighting, in audio, in production, and they start this course, right? Based on the back of our recommendations. And many years later, we started out training people, that could basically walk into the industry with a very good understanding of what companies like us, require, right? And it all starts there, right? So yeah, I think as far as a system integrator is concerned, I would like I would like more of these established courses for ourselves that we can find these people, rather than having to train them ourselves.
Right, perfect.
Yep.
So we heard the thoughts from a manufacturer. We heard what integrator would want to have in terms of the skills that the fresher should bring along with him. Jonathan, you've seen the story from all corners, whether it is designers, consultants, dealers, distributors, manufacturers, integrators. What could be the remedies? What are the ways in which we can bridge the gap for kids coming out of colleges into our industry?
Yeah, so I mean the first bridge is really getting students to take a look at the AV industry, and it's Chris alluded to it. It's because they don't know there is an industry. Everybody knows and sees AV technology these days. It's on, the street corners of major intersections in every CBD in the world. They experience it at school to some level, but nobody knows about the industry that's behind it, right? And that's because most of the people in our industry, sorry, Prakash, but they wear black, and we work, we do our work at night, and we hide in dark corners in theaters, and nobody see it. Like, if you see the AV guy at a production, then there's a problem, right? Because we do our work in secret. And so I think one of the big gaps is that we've got to do is have the institutions talk about a much broader variety of career opportunities. Not, I think it was Chris said it earlier, doctors, lawyers, accountants, maybe it was Prakash, sorry, doctors, lawyers, accountants, IT engineers. These are often talked about and often thought about. So the first part about closing the gap is opening your eyes to other opportunities. India is the fastest growing market for AV in the world. That creates in and of itself another problem, which is we can't get people. You don't know about us as students, so you don't know to look. But it is a very, very big and difficult problem for us. So institutes helping to open the eyes of the students to many of the opportunities. And every university has some people who work, they probably work as a part of the IT department, but they all work to support the AV that's in the classrooms as well. And as Prakash alluded to, you know, the Indian government has announced some very, very exciting initiatives, you know, as recently as just last week when they adopted the new education policy that's been in the wings for 3 or 4 years now, about putting technology in classrooms. It's something very, very important to remember going forward for Alex and for all of the students who are on this call today is when you leave school, you are going into a digital world, and you must have experience at utilizing digital technologies, because that's what's going to happen when you join the workplace. You're going to, you know, you're going to work in a digital world. So the expansion of AV within learning environments, having schools talk more about other technologies and technologies aligned with IT, you know, because there's many of them. There's many other low voltage technologies, and AV, I think AV is the most exciting of them. But if we jump over all that and let's just say Alex finds his way in the door of ESCO and wants to work for ESCO, certainly from the AVIXA perspective, we can support students, as I said earlier, with online education to start to bring them up to speed. And then once they've settled into the industry, if they see an area of specialisation that they might want to get into, we can then support them with education to take them to a specialist level within whatever that area is. And you know, Prakash was being just a little bit modest earlier. You know, Extron and many of the manufacturers do a phenomenal job at providing certification programs like what happens in IT with some of the larger IT brands. They provide these phenomenal training programs so that students know how to use and deploy those technologies that are available that produce these amazing experiences for people as they interact with AV in all walks of life. And a lot of it's very, very exciting, and a lot of it's the nuts and bolts of the economy, but there's nowhere you go these days that doesn't have AV. Nowhere.
Right. And if I can stay with you, Jonathan, you spoke about how something like avixa.org as the portal can give information about careers in AV, training materials, membership programs for students in colleges right now.
Yep.
So any other piece of information you want to share with Alex, especially here on the call, in terms of where they can further enhance their knowledge and understanding about AV as an industry?
Yeah, sure. Look, you know, to Alex and your cohort on the call, on adavixa.org, as Madrul, right, it's not a website, it's a portal, and there's a world of information, a wealth of information for everyone, and then even more so for members. You can get a hold of all of the industry standards, industry white papers. There's the ability to join and be part of AV communities. You know, most of the AV companies in India have HR departments, and you know, those HR departments would be more than happy to talk to you about a career in AV. You can search who the AV companies are on the AVIXA website. There's a member search facility. It's not hard to find. Just go to avixa.org and then, you know, contact the companies, contact the HR departments and talk to them about what career opportunities they have in AV. Or, you know, if if you can't find anyone like that, by all means contact the Avixa staff, and their contact details are on the webpage. But our Avixa staff in Delhi and Bangalore, ably led by Mr. Gaurav Majumdar, more than happy to help field questions. You know, as your industry association, we're here as a resource for you. And if you're interested in AV, we're interested to help you get there.
Perfect. And we started with using the right terminology, thanks to Jonathan, the difference between a portal and a website, right? So thanks, Jonathan, for that. So we are basically directing the traffic to the right set of people and not broadcasting it on the web. So Prakash, how has OEMs like you have information put out for freshers where they can kind of consume it, learn more about your products, about your company, about industry as a whole? You want to talk about that?
Yeah, Mridul, thanks. So what I feel is it is not necessary for a fresher to know about the products and products features. What I may recommend is, from an extern's perspective, they have to know about the technology. So technology in a sake, for example, let's take video. So we know HDMI has been ruling the industry with respect to video. What version of HDMI are we facing now, or having common now in the industry is HDMI 1.4 or 2.0, whatever it is. So, but it all started at 1.1, 1.4a. So what I try to say is these informations are pretty much available in google.com. So when they follow this information, they are good to follow this industry. And we know that TVs are no more full HD. It is applicable to Alex. Alex, you can see. When you go to a showroom, TV showroom. So 5 years before or 10 years before, when you went to the TV showroom, what you saw was a signage board saying, or an advertising board saying, here you can find a full HD TV. Now you go, what do you find? You find 4K TV.
Okay, to 8K, yeah. Yes, sir.
It's kind of a development that has happened to the public. You can easily find this information on the open forum, on the internet. And and also the other side, you have the chipset manufacturers like NVIDIA, Matrox, Intel. They come up with their chipsets that supports better and better content. And when you follow these information, this is good to go. When you're clear about this chipset and what is DVIs, what is HDMIs, what is audio. So this information pretty available in google.com, and a few of the contents and white papers are available in extron.com, and there are enough documents available in the websites. And I feel they have enough materials, I believe, on open forum.
Sure. And this is that time of our session where we should take questions from the audience who is listening to our streams. Chris spoke about UC initially, and we have a UC-based question coming our way. So this is over to you, Chris. This is the era of convergence, which are the convergence sweet spots for AV technologies that should be looked forward as a trend. Let me just repeat that question once again. This is the era of convergence. Which are the convergence sweet spots that AV technologies can look forward to as trends?
Yeah, to be quite specific about this, it's the trend where you merging AV with basically soft codec technology, which is being used in the everyday world. I mean, AV is not just the traditional screens, projectors, and endpoints, right? But you see a lot of the AV technology being merged with soft platforms such as Zoom, such as Teams, things like that. So there's an AV and IT convergence which we've been talking about for years, and I'm not going to start on that because it's actually quite an old topic now, right? So we're looking at a technology that at a professional level that people didn't want to touch maybe 1-2 years ago, that they have to touch every single day, and they will have to gonna touch, in the future, right? So it's in the everyday things now, not just the professional meeting room, but it's in the way you design your home workspace, right? How you collaborate with one another, your understanding of all these soft platforms, right? It's a very critical part of being able to run a whole organization remotely, and you have to, right? So if I were to say where the convergence is, it will be in this area.
Lovely. In fact, that takes me to the next question, which is around the current pandemic. The pandemic has made AV technologies more prominent. Can a quick crash course be done to bridge the gap among young professionals stepping into the industry? What kind of crash course can we give them to use? I mean, I can add 2 cents here, 2 lines here. The reason I love Zoom is it works always. It's easy for everyone to work. In fact, I was having a conversation with a client from US 4 years back when video conferencing was still hardware based, and he mentioned that we have autonomous cars flying in California, and you guys just can't still figure out how video conferencing should work for us. So that was him a few years back. But coming back to the pandemic, quick crash course around what should be done. Chris, Jonathan, Prakash, all of you, you can kind of pitch in here.
Well, I think the shortcut for me is when I have people interested in the AV industry, I send them to Extron training. That's how most people take a shortcut to get people trained up. You know, but in all seriousness, I think since you use Zoom as an example, I'm just going to follow that up, right? I think one of the reasons why Zoom is very successful in what it does, other than giving a very good experience, is because it's so easy to use, right? It kind of takes various elements of everyday technology, you know, such as in the past, you have MSN Messenger, adding contacts, you know, sharing your screen and things like that. It stitches all of these functions together and makes it very, very easy to use, right? So on an everyday level, people, laymen, are already beginning to understand how to run video conferencing functions, how to collaborate, how to annotate, and things like that, right? And you take this technology and then you put it back into the boardroom in the form of all these Zoom rooms and things that professionals like us design, and you realize there's nothing to be afraid anymore. It's actually not as complicated as what people made it out to be.
Yeah. All right. And there's an interesting question coming our way. What are the hotspots for careers in AV? Where are the opportunities in the new normal? Jonathan, you want to take that one? Hotspots for careers in AV, and where are the opportunities in the new normal?
The hotspots are pretty much in any organization that deals in AV. I mean, yeah, I know that's a terrible answer, right? But it's the truth. I mean, you know, right now, I will say though that our events professionals community are suffering very, very badly because of the fact that large scale live events are just not happening anywhere in the world. Beyond that, in the fixed installation market of AV, you know, AV is growing tremendously. The education sector in India, you know, AV, because of the recent government initiatives, AV is going to certainly expand. I think healthcare too. You know, there's been a lot of acceptance of telemedicine now that wasn't before, again, because of the need for people to stay at home and lock down. So there, you know, look at it's you know, UCC, obviously, I think we're seeing our members are telling us that they're seeing a lot of inquiries about connecting remote workplaces with the central office. And I say remote because it's not always a home office, but certainly being able to have your staff connect to your central offices remotely and have a good experience with that. And even within the offices are being restructured because they don't want 20 people in a boardroom anymore. So, you know, you're seeing even within the office environment, desktop applications. I know, speaking from personal experience, if you're looking at my video feed, I'd like a lighting professional in here to get rid of this big hot spot right on my forehead, on my bald head. But look, it's, you know, it's busy all over, and when events come back, they'll come back stronger than ever as well. And I defer to the other guys to add to that. because they're feeling the heat right now too.
I know. All right, another one that is coming our way is AV training in universities. Is the industry interface sufficiently integrated? And what are the new opportunities emerging for youth in this specialization? So what are the AV train? So this is specific to training in universities. Is the industry interface sufficiently integrated? And what are the new opportunities emerging for youth in this specialization? And this is open to anyone on the panel right now.
If I could jump on it just very quickly, I don't think it's integrated enough. There is definitely more work to be done there. And I encourage universities who are thinking about increasing their scope of the types of classes they offer. By all means, as a starting point, feel free to contact Avixa and we can connect you with others within the industry. But we would like to see that expanded. We are working with universities in India specifically. We started a relationship with 30 to 40 universities last year to help work within those universities, but there is a lot more work to be done. And hopefully the policy of the government with its expanded digital classrooms programs will help bring more of that on. Chris and Prakash.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Jonathan. It's nowhere near sufficient now. You know, the current kind of integration, and what the industry has always needed was that sense of identity. We've never really had one, and we're starting to have one now. But until we see people that say that come out and say, you know, I want to join the AV industry. I want to be a AV designer. I want to be an AV engineer. You know, something, you know, very measurable like that. Once we start to see that happen, then I think we've started to make some real progress.
Yeah, I felt that the familiarity of Zoom calls and Teams kind of collaboration tools are slightly increased compared to the previous years, for a couple of years, because of this pandemic. So post this pandemic, what positive we can take away is this virtual sessions. So we hope these kind of sessions would be adapted as a pandemic proof or a kind of at any such circumstances. Not only for those circumstances, even for the regular classes can be taken remotely. This is one such a time that people have realized that Zoom and Teams can help. So what I say is, going forward from here, they can take it further. So AV is something more beyond Zoom and Team, and this is just a tool that helps to facilitate things. So I feel this we have started, we in the sense like industry has started realizing the importance of AV communication, and I think we have to patch a lot, but at least we have started.
Lovely, lovely. Imagine facing this pandemic without internet, without Zoom 20 years back. Right, good, good. So I leave the forum and give it to Deepika again. Deepika, you're on call.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mridul. It was such a wonderful session you hosted. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Chris, Prakash, and Alex for being there, such wonderful panelists and the host. And thank you very much for taking time. So we are at the end of the session. We wind up with such wonderful thoughts and instructions and, you know, a lot of information, a very interactive session and information for the youth who want to pursue their career. Thank you very much, panelists, and have a very wonderful and a lovely day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.